The NBA is a very wealthy league, as we know. It has the highest annual salary amongst all professional leagues in sports, and some players making over $40, $50, and now $60 million a year. We are going to be talking about a player today that decided to decline the biggest contract he was offered at $84 million. He decided to decline this to believe in himself, hoping that he could get a better offer, but 1 year later ended up signing a contract worth less than $6 million. A very big fumble, and we're going to be talking about him today. The NBA, as we know, is a league filled with superstars. We see a lot of players come in and have good personalities on and off the court that people can relate with. And since there are less players, it makes it easier for us to follow these players as fans because there are less superstars in the league compared to a league like the NFL, where you have 53 players per team and many teams have multiple superstars. In the NBA, we see teams that don't have a single superstar on their team if they're maybe rebuilding or in a smaller market. And a lot of the time, these superstars can help teams make it far in the playoffs and win championships. But in my opinion, the biggest contributor to winning a championship or being a successful team is those role players. Those guys that you're going to sign, maybe not for $30 or $40 million a year, but the guys that are going to be signed for $10, $15, maybe $20 million towards the higher end, who go out there and give you a specialty. Maybe they're very good at driving. Maybe they're very good at defense. Maybe they're very good at three-pointers. Maybe they're a higher, more elite level than a superstar on your team in a certain aspect, but it's because they're a specialist in that. A lot of times, these superstars are very good at almost everything on the court, but these specialists, these role players, are very good at one thing, one specific thing most of the time. Obviously, they're very good at basketball, but in the end, these role players are the ones that you need to count on. Maybe you need to make some big shots. These role players can come in, maybe make 5 or 7 threes on a night and help you win the game. So let's talk about a specific role player today. Dennis Schroder, who was drafted in the 2013 draft, 17th overall in the first round. That's why he wore number 17 throughout most of the teams in his career when it was available. Throughout his career in Atlanta, he developed into a pretty solid player. He was in the 6th Man of the Year and Most Improved conversations throughout his time in Atlanta. In his final season, averaging over 19 points per game and shooting almost 47% from the field in his effective field goal percentage, which is very good for a player of his caliber during that time period. After that, he would end up going to Oklahoma City in 2018 and would end up staying there until the 2019-2020 season, staying 2 seasons in total in Oklahoma City, where his numbers would dip a little bit, but he would still be a good, efficient player, as he would shoot 47% from the field in his final season there. And after this, he was then sent over to the Los Angeles Lakers, where during his big season there in the 2020-2021 season, he was a very effective piece for this team. Yes, his numbers went down, but we have to remember, now he would be playing with LeBron James and Anthony Davis instead of in Atlanta, where most of the times he was a number 1 option. Now, in the 2021 season in the Lakers, he was a very, very good fit for this team. Yes, he was shooting pretty well throughout his first few months, and that's where this contract offer came from, where we initially saw it. In February of 2021, the Los Angeles Lakers came to his agent and offered him a 4-year, $84 million deal, but they decided that they were going to wait until the offseason to discuss a deal to see if maybe he could get some more money in free agency, which we now know started a bit of a decline for him, especially with the contract negotiations. So now you may ask, $84 million to less than $7 million, just sitting at $5.9 million, just within a few months period after declining that offer from the Lakers. What happened? Well, we have to start talking about the Lakers themselves. Coming off of a championship, yes, they won in the bubble. They got it done. They did it for Kobe. But coming back in this next season, especially towards the end of the season, a lot of things started to go wrong for the Lakers. As we look at this playoff run, LeBron James got hurt. Anthony Davis was in and out of the lineup, which makes sense for this time period as well. And the Lakers started to slip in the standings, and Schroder himself didn't play his best basketball during this time period. So, when the playoffs started, they would be going up against the Suns in the first round. And as we know, during this season, the Suns were very good. They would end up making the finals, just losing to the Bucks in the finals as Giannis would win his first championship. But Dennis Schroder, Game 5, as we know, a pretty infamous game within his career. A main reason why some of the money would be lost in translation, going from that big contract earlier all the way down to his 1-year contract, as we'll see in free agency. In Game 5, 0 points. He was terrible in this game, and the Lakers themselves were not any better. Looking at this game, Schroder just went out there and really did nothing. 0 for 9 from the field, could not hit a single shot, with a -17 plus-minus score, and the Lakers would lose by 30. They were up 2-1 at one point in this series, and then things derailed, to say the least. Losing the next 3 games, 4, 5, and 6, they would end up losing this series, which means it was time to go into the offseason. And Dennis Schroder, with that big contract offer earlier within the season, was expecting maybe his bet on himself would finally cash out. Well, let's say it didn't really work out the way that he expected. So after missing out on the opportunity to sign back with the Lakers, as the Lakers would go in a different direction with their point guard of the future, he had to go out and find another team to sign with, and it seemed like after his performance in the playoffs, a lot of teams weren't willing to give him the money that he was once offered, as we saw earlier in the season, and he would end up going with what he believed was the best option on the table, with a 1-year, $5.9 million deal with the Celtics, which would be a taxpayer mid-level exception deal. What we know from this, he bet on himself, and sometimes your bet doesn't always hit. In the end, sometimes you just got to take the contract when it's sitting in front of you. And would he go back and sulk on this? No, not really. As we can see here, he would post this Instagram picture saying that he had one chance. He's going to give the fans one chance to clown on him and give him his best fumbling the bag jokes here. So it seems like in the end, he's still playing the game that he loves, as we know now. He's only 31 years old, so he still has a few years left in his career as long as he wants to play. It seems like, as he's still putting up 15 points per game in this last 2023-2024 season for the Nets. So he's still putting up very consistent numbers. I mean, it seems like he's a guy that will be able to put between 10 and 20 points up per game. As we've seen, he hasn't dipped below 10 points per game since his rookie season in 2014, and that's pretty incredible. Like I said before, a lot of these teams are built on superstars, and most of the time when teams are built on superstars, they never really pan out. As we know, when we see these big threes kind of build together, especially in an instance like the Suns right now, with Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, Devin Booker, we see all these big threes come together like the Nets a few seasons ago. In the end, it doesn't really work. Like I said, in my opinion, I think the teams that work very well are built to the core with those young players and those role players that you need to go out and sign in the end. Those are the guys that are really turning the gears for you. Superstars obviously help, but without those specialists on your team, it's very hard. And a guy like Dennis Schroder is going to make a lot of money in his career when it's all said and done, over $100 million in the end, and he gets to play the game he loves because of this. So, in the end, yes, he did fumble the bag, but he still is having a fun time playing basketball. And with that being said, let me know who you guys want to see me cover next in some of these